All right.
Eh,
Well, I think we covered birders, Chris. How do you feel?
I feel like we did. We covered birders. It was a nice episode. There's at the beginning there was some of the woke people.
We
Anytime
don't
you
like that.
rename stuff, you get the woke people come out when things get new names. They just get really, in a huff about it. But everyone seemed nice.
I was going to ask, who is in charge of doing the names, or who gives the final stamp of approval on the official bird
That's a
name?
good
So this is
question.
interesting, and I do have some people talking about that. Let me see if I
Okay.
can grab
Like
that real
yeah,
quick.
who would like? Would it be because it wouldn't be a government? Do you know what I mean? It's not like this is an animal that it's not. It's different countries. It's like an international thing. So is there
Yeah.
some sort of governing body that decides on animal names?
Well, there's a lot of people who do not want it to be a vote.
But
Uh,
there's because yeah,
Hmm.
I'm thinking about that now. I need to look into this myself now. Like who decides on animal names? Like
Yeah.
and it seems like it's like no one's really fighting for it. So it seems like kind of like, oh, this person discovered it and they let that person name it, the person who discovered it, I think. But I don't know.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
the thing I read was that like it's the American Ornithological Society or the Audubon Society that's in charge of it, and a lot of the people
Hmm.
are very worried that they're
Yeah.
going to put it up for a vote. And then some, literally the one I saw was like Hockey McHawk face. They're like very worried that they'll put it up for a vote and
Yeah.
goofballs will come in.
I know a guy. I watched this creator named Michael who is doing a video about it, and he's really worried that they're going to let non-birds into the birding thing, the Hall of Fame, the Bird Hall of Fame, and they'll be sorry, that's a reference, Joe, to some stupid shit we talk about that's completely meaningless to you.
This.
Yeah. So it is going to, it's weird, right? Because you probably would want people to have a say in what they're going to name the birds, because it seems like having a top down approach to that
Yeah.
is also not cool to me. Like I did an anarchist podcast for a long time. So I kind of
Yeah.
am like, we got to let the people make this decision,
Yeah.
but they're totally right
How
that
are we
if,
naming animals? How are we
Yeah.
naming animals?
Here's what I propose.
Okay.
Every nation in the world sends five representatives,
Okay.
two scientists, two amateur birders, and then one random person who just is like they select that random from the population. They send them all to the Ohio State football stadium in Columbus, and
I'll
then
be there.
yeah, if you're lucky enough, sorry, maybe this podcast will help bump you up on the. And then they just put the birds on the jumbotron board, and everybody, and then they say nobody leaves this conference until all of the birds are renamed something fair.
Well, here's the guy. This is
They
the guy
just
that I
they
saw.
just
It is a
debate
good
and
idea.
stuff. Like they have like a debate, like people
Yeah,
really push, and then they like like hey, like listen, hey, we'll give you. How about if we concede that we call this the blue jombler, and then you
yeah.
give us like the red winged tippatu or whatever, And there's like yeah, I mean. It seems more fair than as fair as any other way.
One of the guys shouldn't care, right? So you got
Yes, yes,
the
yes.
scientists, you got the two birders, and then a guy that doesn't give a crap.
Yeah, and
You
then
know,
and for humorous effect, you're like you say all them, and they all have like scientific names, and then his name is like Jeff. You know what I mean? That's
yeah.
funny because it's just one name, like a guy.
So here it is. I just had the same journey as the ornithologist they interviewed. Oh hell no! What a
Hmm.
pain in the ass. They've got a point. I'll have to buy new guides, but my kid or anyone else new to the hobby doesn't have to whip out their phone to understand who this bird is named after. It'll make the
Hmm.
hobby easier to start into. More people will care, so conservation efforts will go up. As long as they don't go to public voting. I don't want to have to tell the kid that jaunty blue one there is a pointy headed peanut goblin. More behavioral and song names would be great. One
Hmm.
generation of birders sighing into our field glasses can suck it up and learn some new names if it makes the hobby better for new learners. And then the guy goes, no public voting? You mean you don't want Hockey McHawk face?
Yeah,
So I think
you can't
you're right,
trust
Joe.
people. Yeah, you can't trust people.
You need a
Bird-
system because people are always goofing around on the internet. They still haven't figured out how to, stop goofing. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So goofy.
I don't know. You said you did that anarchist podcast. Is it too crazy to propose no more bird names?
Oh.
Okay, listen, the fans of that show would have been like, yeah, no more bird names. We don't
We
like
call
that.
them what we're feeling that day. You see it, and it's like, you describe it. I mean, listen, what's the need for it? What's the need for a name of anything? I once lived in the Bahamas. They had no addresses, and it was totally fine.
Really?
Yellow
Yeah,
House?
It wasn't completely fine. It
Yellow.
would have issues. Yeah, that's literally how you describe it. You'd say like it's
You're like, I live in
the
Yellow House, 3 windows.
It's like on the left, the third house past this like business or whatever. That's what you'd have to say. But it became an issue. I think I think it is good
believe
to
that.
have stuff named and labeled. It helps us. I think.
I mean, you let the scientists just do it. Listen, but then there's a problem with that too. The last time you let the scientists do it, they named it after the scientists.
Yeah, that's true.
But they were saying, somebody did mention like, none of this is going to change the scientific name. And many of the scientific names have the names of the scientist in them too.
So you
So
still get that.
Yeah. The Latin.
These bird guys were pretty nice, I would say. I think I have decided. I really do. I think this is the one of all the things that we've done that I really am going to get into. Maybe not right away, but
I'll say this.
Yeah.
The one I'm going to get into is the mafia.
Okay.
I've
So yeah, I'm going to get into the bird ones.
What's your leg wheel?
Yeah, you're wheeling around on your fucking scooter leg, the least intimidating man in the world.
You owe me money.
Yeah, they just push you over.
Yeah, they just think you're like riding, you're like coming up a hill to like confront someone, and he just pushes you back down the hill.
I could do a drive-by shooting sort of thing,
Yeah.
Or, when I get my foot better, I'm thinking I'm joining the mafia. I'm not Italian, but I'll join a biker gang then maybe.
Cool.
Buy a bike. Which we know that the mafia does not respect because they're scumbags. So we learned about like the fact that the mafia is like, these bikers are disgusting and they don't shower enough. So
Brian talked a lot of shit about criminals in his town and stuff on the podcast too, and sort of outed a bunch of businesses that were fronts for criminal activity. So it'll be interesting when that episode comes out, see what happens with that.
Yeah, I'm gonna walk over to Granero and be like, hey, I talked about you.
You're gonna wheel over.
I'm gonna wheel over to Granero and say I talked about you on my podcast. He'll turn it on and be like, Granero is a mafia front. So